possible trade scenarios. The world blew up last week over one football writer suggesting Ben Simmons for Jaylen Brown be a thing. That turned into something.
You didn't bring that up, Tia.
Kevin Love news out there.
We got to bring that up.
I know. I was trolling people on Twitter with it too. I was like, that's going to be our lead topic tonight. But there's a Kevin Love story that he wants to go to the Nets, but somewhere buried in that copy was also that the Celtics are also an acceptable trade scenario. Is that a name you want to even consider on a trade? No. In a buyout situation, if he does get bought out or cut, maybe. And then the Lillard stuff, I don't think is going to go anywhere for a little while. And that's the only place where Jaylen Brown starts to enter the equation. You start to wonder, is that something you consider doing? So those are all things we thought possibly doing.
Lillard, Beal, and Tatum next year?
Yeah.
We need to talk about the Brown.
Check it out.
Simmons.
We'll talk about it. Let's talk about it, Green Room.
We will.
So let's talk about it right now, too.
I want to make sure, did Ahmed put it in the chat?
Yeah, it just dropped.
It is. Great. So the link here is in the chat. You can join us over there on Green Room and hang out. We're going to head over in a minute. So, Jimmy, why don't you whet the appetite here on the Jaylen Brown stuff, and then we'll get everybody all frothy and get them over to Green Room.
Okay, so here's what I'll say about Tommy Kearns, my guy, by the way, his tweet saying that I don't know the tweet exactly.
And by the way, if Tom Curran was not a football writer, he'd be a basketball writer. Everyone's like, stay in your lane, Tom. Tom's a friggin' a pretty astute basketball.
We'd have him on a lot. He would
not based on that tweet.
I'm going to say this.
Tom Curran knows basketball. Anyway, go ahead.
Say one thing about Tom.
Fired up,
I don't want to give Tom too many kudos, but Tom can write. If you've ever read Tom, it doesn't even matter what he's writing about. He's just a really, really good columnist, really good writer, and he knows a shitload about football. But he also could easily write about basketball if he wanted to. Now, that being said, football is the best beat to cover. So in a million years, you wouldn't go from football to basketball if you had the choice.
Right. Great.
Now, that being said, what Tom said was, if you could trade Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons, would you? And the two responses.
That is not what he said. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. What did he say? And the two responses were yes, and absolutely yes.
And definitely,
so he was insinuating that he would 100% trade.
You're an idiot if you think
Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons. And he got a lot of grief. All the Celtics, green teamers, everyone was saying, you don't know what you're talking about. How would you? I wouldn't dream about doing it. Bobby, I think, was at the front of the parade, leading the charge with his Celtics pom-pom saying...
It's not about that. It's about how bad Simmons is.
But here's what I'll say. The same thing I said and what John said about the idea or the discussion of Brad Stevens maybe not being a great head coach for this team. And the same exact people were like, you guys are idiots. How can we even talk about this? Isn't even worth talking about. And what happened? We already know. So for those same people or even new people to say, even talking about, even the idea of trading Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons is not even worth the discussion, is crazy talk. We're all so stuck in what have you done for me lately mode where we forget how good Ben Simmons is at so many things in the NBA. I'm not saying, hold on. I'm not saying this is a layup trade and the Celtics should do it and anyone who doesn't is an idiot. What I'm saying is, it's not that crazy as Celtics fans want to make it seem like it is. And on top of that, there are a lot of NBA fans that would feel the opposite, that you wouldn't trade Ben Simmons for Jaylen Brown because of how good Ben Simmons is as a player who can guard 5 positions, as a distributor, as a guy that almost averages a triple-double over his career. I mean, let's be real here. It's not that crazy.
And that's all I said. I said on Twitter, outside of the little Celtics echo chamber we live in, this is
I actually disagree with that.
This is
I think a lot of people
and Bobby, this is again what happened over the course of the year. Is Ben Simmons that much different as a player at the end of the year as he was at the beginning? Like, I'm not for this trade. I think Simmons has too many warts. All I'm saying is before the season, 9 out of 10 NBA personnel people would probably say they would rank Ben Simmons as a greater asset and a better player overall than Jaylen Brown.
Definitely.
Every top 50 list or 100 list had Simmons rated 20 to 30 spots higher. He's considered he's a 3-time All-Star. Brown just made it for the first time. It doesn't matter if you like his game or not.
He's an All-NBA first teamer.
First team all
defense,
defensive. He's the best
yep.
defensive player in the NBA. He is, we are talking about how he is regarded. And by NBA people, before the season, he was much more highly regarded than Brown, who people also really like. So the idea that it's a conversation that could never be had was the only thing that Jimmy and I clapped back against. I would not do this. I cannot stand a guy who can't shoot. I couldn't live with it. Can't live with a guy who's terrified to shoot. And that's before the season, but I'm not making that determination only because he had a shitty playoffs.
Yeah, but John, you couldn't stand seeing someone like Marcus getting like $25 million. Never mind what Ben Simmons is getting right now.
It's an insane amount of money, and
that's a huge part of this too.
He will. It's not just he can't shoot; he won't shoot, and that's a major problem. However, if
the free throws,
all of it, so I'm not for it. But give me a break that you can't have this conversation.
You can have it, and
I'm not having this conversation.
I'm more for it than John is, because John, it sounds like you straight up just would not do it.
The shooting thing kills me, but I can recognize everything else he does, and then the money tips it.
The money's the only thing for me. For me, and this is where I think Bobby's a little bit of a hypocrite here, is Ben Simmons does every single thing that Bobby begs and pleads everybody on the Celtics to do: play defense, switch, play hard, transition, distribute the ball. I mean, he actually had the audacity to say that he wouldn't trade Marcus Smart for Ben Simmons, and he meant it.
I wouldn't know. And that's a more fair discussion, I think.
Crazy
at this point.
talk, but it's just like you have to take off the green goggles for a second and just understand how good this guy is. Yes, his shooting was historically embarrassing in that playoff series, and there's no excuse for it. But he's also he's just as young as everyone brags that Brown is. He's more, he's done more over his career. And I'm not just going to give up on the guy. Again, the money is, to me, the biggest issue. But for me to just say, oh, Ben, like Bobby, and correct me if I'm wrong, you think that his career is essentially over?
I have no indication he's going to be able to turn this around. Like
what?
And that to me is crazy. Like that's just
so what do you mean by that?
Did we watch the
numbers
never seen anything like what he just did in the playoffs?
Right, but like you're acting like he's 36 years old and washed up. Like he's 24-year-old like superstar.
No, but why is he playing the way he is?
And the fit alone on this Celtics team, to me, like that's one of the reasons why I think Curran even brought it up, is because he would slide in and be like exactly.
I don't know where he would fit in. Is he the
as a starting point guard? What do you mean where he would fit in?
He really struggled with that.
We're sitting here talking about Jason Tatum running the point for this team, and he's exactly what you don't want handling the ball all the time.
I know, but Simmons is the opposite.
In a perfect world, I want him. I wouldn't mind him being that third guy. I don't know if you're trading Jalen for him.
Nobody wants to trade Jaylen Brown. Nobody wants to trade Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons. It's an imperfect trade, but the idea that you could look at a guy like Simmons and not say, could this work in a way that other things don't work?
If you want to do Smart and Thompson, that's a conversation.
Jason did say that. I forgot about that. You remember when sorry, Bart, doesn't cut you off, but he goes, remember when he was asked about when Grant finally made his three, remember last year when he was 0 for 23 or whatever it was before he actually made one? And the first comment out of Jaylen Brown's mouth was like, yeah, man, before he made that, we were calling him Ben Simmons. Yeah. I forgot about that. Jaylen Brown said that.
That was great.
About Grant.
Then there's been some definitely a little back and forth between those guys, and that's
Brown
he hasn't started to say about Jaylen. That's right. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, Brown destroyed him in that one game. The playoffs, like the level of quit that he showed went so far beyond the shooting. He got scorched defensively. It just seemed like he's so done with that situation. I think this thing with him, and you have it with a lot of guys who are on max contracts. You're not gonna make me the centerpiece here. I'm just gonna pass the ball around and not shoot and just do what I want to do here.
Like I said,
just a complete
we lived this with Rondo. We lived it with Rondo, and people were pissed off, and they thought it was really stubborn. But Rondo in his Boston days really would turn down that elbow jumper all game long and play. They're packing the lane against him, and he's standing there top of the key. He had the ball in his hands all game long, and people are playing 10 feet off him, 15 feet off him, and he wouldn't shoot. We would enter the offseason and say, okay, all Rondo needs to do is be able to confidently knock down a 15-footer, and he's a friggin' all-world player. And he'd come back and he still wouldn't friggin' do it.
But you know what?
So,
he eventually did.
But he could do them, and then eventually he did. But sadly, at that point, some of his physical gifts left him, so he couldn't have been that all-world player when he did finally start to knock down that shot a little bit better.
But if Ben Simmons
is 24.
Exactly. If that clicks for Ben Simmons 6 years before it did for Rondo, I mean, you're talking about a guy who can literally do it all. And I'm not expecting Simmons to ever I'm not expecting him to be a 40% three-point shooter and take five a game. But he just needs to be.
We said this last year.
Sounds like he just needs to basically be serviceable.
I said it last year specifically because I was like, if one guy can do it, I thought it was Doc Rivers. I thought Doc Rivers could get that.
I thought he could get through to him too.
And again, pretty much what Jimmy just said. Like, I didn't expect him to come out and start.
This guy needs to go to
Orlando. We have to stop. At some point,
this thing's got to be gradual. And I think now more than ever, if they don't trade him, like Doc has to get him to start shooting.
We've got to stop with this Doc Rivers thing and thinking that he's some level of coach beyond.
Well, John, he's not an X's and O's guy, right? So this should be in his wheelhouse.
He's a player's coach,
but he's a player's coach in the sense of like, I'm going to let the players be the players.
Stats are startling.
Yeah, but let's enough with the Doc Rivers being. I mean, he's not a guru. He's not the type of guy that
he did bring them to the 1 seed. That counts for something. And then Simmons just quit. What are you gonna do there? They should have beat Atlanta. If Simmons showed any level of effort, they would have beat Atlanta and they would have been in that conference final. So if they can get like a Kyle Lowry or something back for him or CJ, they'll be in a decent spot again.
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.